Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video. This one is a cozy kind of paint with me, and specifically I'm kind of going back to working on some of my surface pattern design work. Now, if you've been watching some of my recent videos, you'll know that I've kind of had that on a hiatus-ish for the past few months because I've just been working on developing my art style and just finding my own voice in my own artwork. But now I feel kind of ready to get back into working a little bit more specifically on some of this surface pattern design work and just kind of incorporating some of the stuff that I've been learning about my own style and just like what feels good into some of the surface pattern design motif work as I work on continuing to develop my portfolio and get it ready to pitch to different companies for art licensing. If any of you are cat owners out there, which I know some of you are because you've told me, you might be able to relate to this experience, which is that like every single time that I get my painting stuff out, it's like a magnet. My cats just appear out of nowhere. So yeah, they're often heavy participants in my painting process. I'm almost always painting at nighttime because I paint after my full-time 9-to-5 job, and by the time I get home and then do dinner and clean up and whatever, it's always dark out, and so I bring in artificial light when I need it, which is most of the time, to be honest. Anyway, back to my cats. Just stay tuned, they're about to cause a little bit of chaos, and it's largely because of these cones they're wearing, and they're fine, it's just related to a little bit of like some skin stuff they have going on. They're fine, don't worry about it, but please hold for some chaos. Hazel! Ugh. Dude. Hazel. Why'd you do that? So yeah, I feel like this kind of thing happens pretty much every time I paint, and it's funny because I always say like, wow, I think I'm such a slow painter, but then I think about it and the reality of like pretty much every painting session for me is that the first 30 minutes involve something like this, you know, some kind of disaster, or, you know, just my cats like walking all over my stuff, or, you know, they'll get into that mood where they're just like immediately so lovey, so full of love. We call them drunky. When Pumpkin's feeling a little drunky, she'll rub all over my face and stuff while I'm painting. And anyway, at least the first like 30 minutes of my painting session always looks like that. So, you know, maybe that's like half of the reason why I'm such a slow painter. Anyway, you know, this is just a reality of my painting experience, is that my cats are around all the time, and, you know, this is a realistic look at what you can expect from me and my videos and my channel, because this is, you know, I like to keep it real. And this is pretty real for me. So anyway, if you have cats who are like mine, I would love to know. I know there have been some of you in the past who are like, wow, your cats are so spoiled because you let them up on the table where you're painting. Like mine, I don't allow on the counters or anything at all, which we tried. We really did try. I mean, probably not hard enough, but I always kind of joke that like this is their apartment and it's not mine. I'm here in their apartment anyway, so. Anyway, so yeah, welcome to the minor chaos of painting with me, painting here in my kitchen. Hope you're enjoying and joining along. But anyway, so now I wanted to talk a little bit about like what I'm painting, kind of my thought process behind some of this. And so as many of you know, this is my sketchbook that's relatively new to me. I started it in March and it's April now. So I really don't have like a structured vision for this sketchbook. I'm really just using it as, the way I think a sketchbook should be used, which is just a place to play and to experiment. And something I'll show, not in this video, but when I do like a sketchbook tour and stuff, is that something I really want to do more of in this sketchbook is like master studies. Like, how people will do master studies or master copies of like, a Vermeer or something like that, or you can take like a Van Gogh and you can paint that same exact painting because you want to learn from that painting and you want to learn from a master, someone whose work you really admire, and you find a certain type of beauty from that person's work. And so you decide that you want to study it and you want to see how they combine their colors and see how they laid out their different brush strokes and see how they created different shapes or suggested different faces or whatever in their artwork. And so that's something generally that I've been wanting to do for a long time with like paintings. But then I was thinking about it and I was like, well, there's also like several surface pattern designers, contemporary artists, but also like specifically surface pattern designers whose patterns I just love so much. And I had this realization recently where I was like, I can do a master study of like surface pattern designers who I love. Like, why not? And so that's something I've started to do a little bit in my sketchbook. So I think I might do like a whole video about that. But anyway, it's been a really helpful process for me to start paying attention. Like, I always try to pay close attention to what I enjoy about any type of art, but specifically when I'm looking at surface pattern design, I'm like, what do I like? If I find a pattern that I love and that I think is really great, I always try and be like, okay, what do I love about this pattern? What actually makes it great? Like, why do I think it is so great? And that's all well and good, but it's actually, I found it's way better to actually try it out myself. And I started doing this a little bit, and so I was painting a few motifs and I was like taking notes about it too, and I was like, I really like this thing because they like this particular motif is like really sketchy, like, and you can see these like colored pencil marks on it or something, and it's just really kind of organic and rough, and I love that about this. Or like, I really like the way that they use these blobs of color here, or, whatever. And so I'm definitely going to be doing more of that. But what I'm painting right here in this page of my sketchbook, this is not a master copy or a master study or anything. This is from my own brain. These are just some random botanical things. And honestly, I didn't like mix this color palette just for this. These are this is just some gouache that I had on this little ceramic palette I've been using already, and it was one of those things where I was just like, okay, well, let's just like see what I can create from this. And it was using some of the techniques and stuff that I had noted down when I was doing some of that like master copy work, but largely this was all just coming from my own brain, because my vision, again, for this sketchbook is not necessarily to make anything that is finished or like ready to go or ready to be put in my portfolio or anything like that. And that's not to say that might not happen, because it totally could. But I'm not going into these pages with the expectation that this is a pattern that I'm going to put in my portfolio. Like, I'm still in this mindset of, okay, I'm playing, I'm trying to figure out what works, what I like, all of that good stuff. So anyway, something that I've been loving playing with is kind of doing a mixed media approach, where I paint down kind of my base layer and then I use something else on top of it. So for this one, that's going to be these colored pencils, and other times it might be oil pastels or whatever, but for right now we're using these Prismacolor colored pencils, and these have been kind of my old reliable for a long time. I bought this set back when I was in college, when I was doing my undergrad, and it's funny looking back on my life because it's, you know, for those of you who kind of know my story, or those of you who know me in real life, like I often will say that like it wasn't until pretty recently that I would say 2022 probably, that I kind of have embraced really this more creative, more artistic side of myself. But looking back on my life, like there are some really obvious signs that like I've always been a really creative person, and like I knew that. I think I would have always told you that I've been creative, but that part of me has been kind of shoved away for a long time. You know, I studied ecology, evolution, and biodiversity in undergrad, and also French, but not art. And then I have a master's in environmental science as well. So, you know, not art, but circling back, the reason I even went down this rabbit hole is these colored pencils. And I bought these when I was in college, when I was doing my undergrad, because I had such a strong desire to create artwork. And at that time, I was doing a lot of like realism type drawings, and I really, when I say a lot, I mean like one per year. But it was it brought me so much comfort from like the stresses of school and, you know, living alone for the first time and all of that. Like I had so much comfort. Even when I studied abroad in college, I spent a semester in France, and I had very limited luggage space, and I still brought my colored pencils and my sketchbook with me, which I know I keep saying this was my first sketchbook. This was like a big pad of paper thing that I brought to France, and maybe sometime I'll walk you guys through any of these older drawings that I have from when I, you know, was just kind of doing these once per year kind of drawings. But anyway, these Prismacolor colored pencils come from way back then, and I've carried them around with me since then. And you can tell by the fact that they're, you know, pretty long still. They're not like super short stubby pencils that like I really haven't used them that much, and so it feels good to break them out again. And I really love the effect, actually, bringing it back here. Let's rein it in, Sarah. Back to this actual drawing I'm working on right here. I really love this texture that you get from drawing on top of the paint, and I'm also like trying to give myself some leeway here and just like wiggle room to just play with color. And I know in this particular spread I'm not like doing anything crazy with color, but I think that adding that extra layer, you know, using those colored pencils, gives me even more wiggle room than when I'm just using paint. Or not necessarily wiggle room, but it gives me more opportunities, I guess, to just like mess around and have fun with color and texture and everything. So I'm actually quite happy with how this one turned out. Like, I think this combination of pretty bright springy colors with colored pencil makes for a pretty fun combination. So I am really enjoying like this technique of just playing with different pattern compositions in my sketchbook. And then the vision here is that these can be scanned, brought into Photoshop when I really, you know, when I love them and I want to see how they look as a full pattern. And I can build out the pattern and, you know, add that to my portfolio and to my Spoonflower website and all of that. So I hope you enjoyed coming along with me to paint some of these little motifs. This is the first of many. Actually, it's not the first. There's more in here, so I'll show you plenty of these when the time comes. But I'm really excited to be back in the surface pattern design grind. Like, actually, I don't even want to call it a grind. Like, it's a slow, gentle reintroduction to the surface pattern design world. Like, this is, here, Hazel's gonna come join us. Every time I either talk to a camera or am in a meeting, a work meeting, even if Hazel's like completely asleep, she will come over to see what she's like, who are you talking to? Anyway, like I said earlier, I'm kind of trying to pull together everything that I have been learning about my own art style and just like developing my art skills and bringing some of that together into like just trying to figure out what that will look like or what that does look like when it comes to making a pattern. Because even though right now, like in the short term-ish, my focus is still on developing my style, getting super comfortable, creating my artwork, just like playing and experimenting, I do still long-term have the goal and the vision of turning this all into, you know, something that I can use to actually generate revenue from my artwork. And so specifically, I'm looking at doing art licensing through surface pattern design and surface design more broadly. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. But you know, something that's really important to me is to make sure that I'm enjoying the artwork that I'm making and I'm not just making it to make money. Like, there's all kinds of really good conversation out there in the world about this topic, but that's for another video. But anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts about this little pattern this framework of a pattern that I put together here. If this is something that you'd be curious to see, you know, worked up in, you know, a full completed repeating pattern, and like in my Spoonflower shop, for example, where you could buy it on fabric or wallpaper or, you know, home goods, like let me know if this is actually one that you are interested in seeing me build out. But I'm going to continue playing with this kind of thing throughout my sketchbook, and we'll see what happens. Like, let me give you a little sneak peek, just a little sneak peek. Like, here's another one that I did, and it's obviously just a bunch of strawberries, but I think this is kind of fun, and I could pick out some of my favorites here and turn them into something cool. So anyway, lots more of that to come. So if you enjoyed this video, it would mean a whole lot to me if you could give it a like. It actually really, truly does make a difference, and I really appreciate you for doing that. And if you're feeling particularly kind and generous, I would love it if you could leave a comment as well, because it really actually does help my channel and my videos get seen by other people. And especially in the surface pattern design world, I feel like there are not a lot of us surface pattern design people out here on YouTube. So it'd be really helpful if you yourself are one of us, one of these surface pattern design people. It'd be really great if you could leave a comment, because that will help others of us connect and find each other here on this platform. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this video. If you are into this kind of chill, chatty, paint with me kind of vibes, I'll put a link right here to a pretty recent video that I did where it's just kind of a chatty paint with me as I continue to work and figure out my art style. So with that, thank you very much for being here, and I will see you very soon for my next video. Take care, everyone.